Hi, I'm Delisa Abraham, Faith and Sparkles World, and this is another episode of Boss Chronicles Unpacking Sun Tzu's book, The Art of War for Managers. And this book was updated and written by Gerald and Steven Michaelson. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you enjoy this episode, like and subscribe. Click that like and subscribe button. So we will get right into it because I love the book, The Art of War. During my military time, that was one of the first books I received, aside from John C. Maxwell's books. But one of the first books was called The Art of War, and it was a challenging read for me in my 20s. I was in my early 20s at that time. Through the years, through the decades, almost 2 decades, I still read that book, reread it, and now I'm reading the book, The Art of War for Managers, which I'm going to share with you because this one is more specific for those who are leaders in their industry, in their business, in their field. Now, I'll give you my top 3 chapters in this book. Actually, all of the chapters make sense and they flow in an organic way, in a natural way on how you need to lead, especially if you are a frontline and or mid or seasoned leader in your industry. It can be applied in any area, just maybe some slight adjustments based on where you are as a leader in your company or in the business that you're working with. So the first one, number 3, it comes from chapter 5. It's the use of energy. Now, if you know anything about energy is all around us. We have an abundance of energy as well. And energy is needed, right? When we go to the gym, we work out, we get all pumped up, we get super excited, and we're like refreshed, we're renewed, and things flow, our days flow. And with that, the snowball effect of getting up and exercising means that our bodies are healthier, our heart gets stronger, the blood circulation is moving so much. And then in turn, the psychological effects of the exercise means that now we want to eat better foods. We want to eat better foods. So we start seeing how the body and the mind starts working together. Now we want to foster even more energy. So we have to learn how to calm our energy or to increase it. And so we start picking up now a bit on the spiritual, some meditations, relaxation works. And we're starting to unite all these different areas of our being. Now in the book, The Art of War for Managers, my number 3 pick from chapter 5 is the use of energy, because when we can effectively use our energy and when we understand when we are most energized so we can get the most things accomplished, then it becomes easier for us to go through our day and not be depleted. So everything works holistically as one, as a leader, but you have to understand when you are most energized. Some people are better in the mornings, some are better in the evenings, some just function better late at night. It just depends. And once you understand your body's rhythm and you understand when you have the highest amount of energy, then that's when you can be the most effective. I will share with you many, many decades, maybe even a century ago, when there were duelers. If anyone remembers what a duel is, people were dueling back in the day to stand for their honor or for whatever reason they would duel. They would always pick a time. Sometimes it's early in the morning or at sunset, but there would always be one person that will pick the ideal time that works for them because they are the most alert. They have the most energy. And so if you're going into a duel with someone, maybe you're doing negotiations, for example, you want to go into that meeting or into that space when you are at your highest point of energy, when you are at your best. So that is one of the main reasons why I picked chapter 5, the use of energy, because it really helps you as a leader, not only to identify where you are in your energy, but how to also effectively use it. So it goes on in page 48. It says, structure follows strategy. And that is key. When you have a structure, when you have a foundation, it becomes easier for you to move from there and to have strategy. It continues on. It says, you need to first determine the strategy. What is your plan? A strategy is your plan. So you first determine the strategy to achieve your vision and then develop your organization structure. Finally, put the people in place. Now, how does this relate to your use of energy? Well, once you have a strategy, like when you're making up your plan and you know what your vision is, what your goal is, what do you want to achieve, it becomes easy for you to have a structure. So they're both working hand in hand, strategy and structure. And as you know where you're going, who you are, what you want to achieve, whatever your goals are, then now you have a strategy. How am I going to get there? That's key. How am I going to get there? And once you know, okay, how am I going to get there? Now you have to think, who am I going to put in very specific positions to help me accomplish this goal? So your team, you have to look at them from that perspective as well, right? You have to understand their energy. You have to understand how they best function. You need to have like a basic understanding of that, as well as understanding what their skills are, right? What are they good at? How are they going to effectively support your goal, your vision? Where's that mutual benefit? And then place them strategically so that you can maximize their potential and they can give you their best versus not putting them in the right position or at the right time, and you're kind of floundering a bit. If you have any questions on that, let me know in the comments below. Now, a good example of use of energy, there was a company called Bell Lab, and this is an example in the book. And Bell Lab did a study where they wanted to know how they can grow their team, how they can best support their team. And so in the example, they were just saying that all they did was give them extraordinary attention. So you have a team, give them extraordinary attention, be appreciative of them. And in this study, they didn't give them a bigger desk, they didn't give them more money, they didn't say, okay, you get to go home early or you get to come back to work late. Everyone was, on the same spectrum in terms of they show up at a certain time, they go home at a certain time. The main difference between the people in this study and the rest of the employees at the office was that they got extraordinary attention. So as a business owner, as an executive, as a leader in your field, giving people the attention that they need so you can best support them in turn they will give you their very best. They will give you their very best. And this is what we want, because we want people energized. We want people to be supporting our goals and our visions, and want them to show up awake and alive and ready to do this. And so this is where, when we're talking about strategy follows structure and how they work hand in hand, is making sure, am I putting the people in the right place, right? And that comes down to you as a leader. Every single thing comes down to you as a leader. It comes back to you. How your people are going to perform it comes back to you and how you perform and the guidance and the leadership that you give to them. And what they found was that working conditions enhanced and people were happier. And all they got was extraordinary attention, which for me it's like, okay, great. And I know how I felt in any workplace that I worked when I felt supported, It's not about being a favorite. There's a difference, right? It's not about playing favoritism. It's just feeling supported and being supported, and not being supported where they're like, oh, I'm going to support you. But then later on, maybe they said, oh, you need all this extra support. It's like genuinely supporting your team so that they can give you back 100% and they can be happy. The happier people are, the better they will give, the more they will give you, the better they will perform. They will always go to that high performance level. One of the other aspects that I found in this chapter, in chapter 3, comes from page 51, and even at the end of page 51, it really gives a good summary on the use of energy. But it says here, disorder or order depends on organization and direction. Courage or cowardice on your posture, and strength or weakness on dispositions. Very key when you're looking at the use of energy, when you are a leader in your industry, because if there is order, if there is direction given in your organization, and I'm talking about like good leadership direction, you will have order. You will not have disorder or chaos. So it's important for you as a leader to know how the organization, like as a business leader, any project that you're doing, or if you have a business, you have that like organizational chart. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody knows where their positions are, right? Because you strategically place people in places so that they are able to achieve the goal, right? They are not only are they confident, they have the experience, they have the expertise, they perhaps have been doing it a while, depending on where you're placing them. And because you have that structure or that hierarchy, it allows people to have the order. They know, who do I go to report? So it's there. No one's wasting energy or trying to burn up additional energy unnecessarily because they're trying to learn something, because they're placed in a position that they weren't qualified to be in the first place. And so this is where your strategy and your structure comes into play, right? And this is where that use of energy, the use of your personnel, understanding who they are, giving them what they need, et cetera, et cetera. All of these parts, all of these things really affect the business, the energy of your business as well. Number 2, it would be terrain. So chapter 10 has the terrain. In the military, you have to know your terrain. You got to know where you are. You got to understand the terrain. You have to know if I'm going out there, is there valleys, dunes, is there water around? You have to understand the terrain of where you are. So you have to know a little bit about geography. You have to know a little bit. You have to know how to read a map, because you got to know where you're going. You got to know where you're going to be settling. You have to understand the advantage of that. And in the book, it shares on that, because obviously this book was written like centuries ago. But in the updated version for managers, The Art of War for managers, when they're speaking about terrain, they're really highlighting and pinpointing the areas of operations. And we need to recognize that areas of operation, how that works. So on page 106, it talks about the competitor and linking between the process, aligning them to deliver value. How are you going to deliver value? How are you going to do that in your industry? Well, you have to understand the terrain. You need to understand who is your competitor and how they are also delivering value, especially if you're in similar fields. That doesn't mean that you're going to get angry and you're seeing them as like the enemy. You're absolutely not. There's no need to see them as that way. But at the end of the day, you're competing businesses. So you need to recognize, what value am I giving? What value are they giving? You need to understand your competitors so that you can provide your clients, your customers, with the value that they're needed. You can also provide your team with value by supporting them, making sure, are they continuously learning? Are they getting the mentorship, the guidance that they need in the environment, in the workspace of where they're at, right? So all of these questions need to be answered. You have to know your competitor, you have to know yourself, you have to know the industry, you have to know your people. So there's a lot of things as a business owner, as a senior exec, as an entrepreneur, that you have to factor in. It seems very, very easy and simple, and yes, it is. We start a business, and this is what I'm going to do, but the reality is, and the facts remain, that you still need to understand the landscape, the terrain. You must know your market. As I mentioned, you must know your industry. You have to understand what's going on. You need to be able to project and see 5 years down the line when you're coming up with your business plan, and or when you have a project that you're working on as an executive or as a leader of your team, perhaps. You have to forecast. You have to forecast, and you need to see the, are we going to accomplish our goals? How long is it going to take? And what's happening in the industry? Are we innovators? Are we the inventors? Or are we just copycatting? So all of that thought process needs to be evaluated. And once you understand, hey, are we copycatting? Are we going to be innovative? Are we going to invent something new? Whatever it is, that will let you know who you need to be on your team, and how they can best support you, depending on the approach that you're going to take. Now, in order for you to know your market, and that is a must in bold, M-U-S-T in bold, it means that you have to listen. You need to listen. You need to listen to your people. You need to listen to the customers. You need to listen to your team, because they are coming with insights, particularly your customers. They are coming with insights that you do not have just yet. You do not have that insight from their perspective, and you want their perspective, because remember, at the end of the day, if you have no customers, you have no business. I will say that again. You have no customers, you have no business. So you need to listen to your customers, and you need to listen to your team as well, so that you are able to give them exactly what they want. Now, on page 108, they share the story of Napoleon and how he was listening to the people. Now, Napoleon Bonaparte, for many of you who may and or may not know, he was a general. And this was during the time of the French Revolution. So, a very long time ago, over a century ago. And when he was going through rise to power, he had to earn his way all the way up through the ranks. And he was, a man of short stature. He wasn't the most muscular of men and what you would envision a general to be. But he used his energy accordingly, and he understood the people. He understood what the people wanted. So when the revolution happened, and the queen and the king of that time, they went oof. They had to leave this earth, right? Because the people, there was that huge uprising, and they needed a leader. Guess what? Bonaparte was right there. He was primed, and he stepped in. It was easy for him to step in. But what he also did was listen to his soldiers. And he used the soldiers that was under his charge they were so loyal to him because he also listened to them. Yes, he made strategic decisions and all things. So when he won a lot of the battles that he fought in, one, he understood the terrain. Two, he understood people. And that was because he was listening to his people at the time. When he lost his battle in Russia, he didn't listen to the people. He was just like, in ego, and marched into Russia at that time. And of course, most of his army, they passed because they did not understand the weather, the terrain in Russia. And of course, they turned on him at that time. But, listening to your customers is very important. It is exceptionally necessary. It continues on. It says, managers must learn how to interpret data. To do that, you must be in the battlefield where the data is collected. So managers must learn how to interpret data. To do that, you must be in the battlefield where the data is collected. There's always surveys that we get, like maybe in our emails, we'll get like a survey, or we buy something in a store and then they will send us the e-receipt and then it'll say, click to do this survey, call this number, we'll give you this prize for the survey. And businesses do this, and you'll see a lot of bigger businesses doing this because they need the data. They want to know, what do people want? If I know your problem, I can give you a solution. Then it's easier. I know how to identify my target audience. I know how to provide the value and the solutions that you need so that you can thrive. And this is why it's important for managers to know this. Now, if you are a leader, a senior exec leader, and there is the frontline leader, this is where all different levels of leadership is important if you're working in a big business. So the frontline leaders, the frontline managers, they're getting a lot of the information. The senior execs, they're the one coming up with the survey because they need the data so that they can strategically plan how they're going, like what's going to be produced in the next, year or 3 to 5 years. And so they come up with either surveys or they do beta testing to find out, okay, what is the response? What do people want? Domino's did a 30-year survey, and this was in the news very recently, but they did a 30-year survey about what people would eat on their pizza. And they found that people would eat anything. They put all kinds of things on there, like Oreo cookies, all these kind of stuff that they put on there, and people just, they ate it. They found that their most disgusting pizzas was the most popular pizza, and they just couldn't understand how that was. But the data, this 30-year information that went through not only from the front lines, but the frontline managers, middle and senior, as well as for the chefs that were coming up in the laboratory or coming up in their kitchens. It wouldn't be the laboratory, but in their kitchens, they're coming up with different kinds of pizzas to get people to eat pizza, because maybe after a certain age, they don't want just cheese on their pizza anymore. So they came up with this, and they had to understand, if we give people this, are they going to accept it? And sadly, people ate whatever. And so they found that. And so now with their strategy, Domino's is how Domino's is, and the company that they are, they survived for so long because they had the data. They understood the data. They understood what people wanted, and they gave them what they wanted. Right? They looked at all those things. So if you are an entrepreneur, perhaps you have a smaller business right now, perhaps maybe you're a solopreneur, you have to understand the data. This is why your testimonials are important. This is why when you're having a master class or in your groups that you're probably having, you need that feedback. What am I missing? Right? You have the feedback. Maybe you interview guests. You want to know what's the feedback so that you can improve and you can give the people what it is that they want. Now, there are There are a bit more here, but I'll go through as quickly as possible. They said that there are laws of leadership, and one of them, and this is found on page 110, it talks about decentralization. That's giving people authority needed to achieve objectives. Giving people the authority needed to achieve objectives. So if you are the senior exec and you have your team, or the CEO of the company, you have to give people the authority to do certain things, because you can't be involved in every single thing and every single aspect. You need to be aware of it, yes, but people need to know, okay, yes, this is a decision, this is what I'm going with. So you have to give people that authority. You also need to give people freedom. People need to know about information passing, stability, mutual trust, a willingness to assume responsibility. You need to allow leaders to make decisions and carry them out. Expect the unpredictable, and they also need to be trained. So as leaders, this is some of the top 9 things that you always have to be thinking, right? Especially if you are a senior exec and you have a team, how you're going to lead them and what they need to be able to best perform. And that ties in with the best use of energy as well. When understanding the terrain, when in understanding the environment, there are 2 things that you need to know. And I mentioned earlier, whenever you have a team, however your team performs, the structure, the strategy that goes out, it comes back to you. And so when understanding terrain, when understanding the environment, your marketplace, you must know yourself. And you must know your competitor. You must know your competitor's strengths and weakness. You have to understand it. If you don't understand it, you're just going in blind and you would not have a plan. Now, yes, there are, times when we say we need to be synchronized and things are aligned and doors are opening, and all of those things are true and they work hand in hand. But in this case, as a business owner, if you own a digital marketing company, there are so many other digital marketing companies around the world. What makes you different? So you have to understand, okay, if I live in, I don't know, Europe, for example, or Germany, wherever it is that you live, what is that landscape, right? How many people are doing digital marketing in Germany or in my community, online? What are the prices? What are they charging other people? What are they strong at? So you have to pay attention of those in your field and know what they are doing so that you are able to give your customers the best value, your people the best value, and so that your team is also staying abreast of the training that they are needed so that they are properly equipped. They are properly equipped to do their job. And that is huge. So remember, knowing your competitor is easy, knowing yourself is hard. And so everything comes back to you. There's a lot of work as a leader that you need to do. Everyone talks about, or most people you will see, okay, I'm a financial coach, and so I will get you, a 100% turnaround in 30 days. This is just an example, right? Well, are they really giving them that turnaround in 30 days? What actually needs to be done? If this person is now coming in into the industry, and they're going to be working with this coach, is that even viable? Or are they targeting bigger corporations, right? You have to understand your competitor. You have to understand who they're serving. You have to recognize their impact and their influence. All of those things are important. And then on top of that, now you have to know yourself. Shakespeare says, to thy own self be true. You have to know who you are. You have to recognize your own skills, your own talents, and those areas and spaces where you need improvement as well. Okay? The higher your position as a leader, the more difficult to receive true value. Now, many people think that people be honest with them, but you would hear a lot of millionaires, even billionaires, who say that, there are people who are fake. They're not giving them the real feedback. Versus if you have a frontline manager, people will be more honest. So this is where your relationship building is necessary and important, because you want to hear the honest feedback. This is the only way you can improve. This is the only way that you can grow. So this is where you need to have self-examination. Do not lie to yourself. Don't think you are God's gift to the whole earth and you are the perfection. Not trying to downplay you or make you feel bad about yourself. What I'm saying is you need to go within and recognize those areas and spaces where you need support, where you need help, where you need guidance. And there are 3 parts that you have to pay attention to. And this comes back to number 1, the use of energy that I spoke about. And it's the physical, the intellectual, and the moral. So the self-examination piece that you would need is in 3 parts. The physical, right? Are you exercising? Are you seeing your doctor? Are you eating? What's your nutrition like? All of those physical pieces. So you are operating in optimal health. 2, intellectual. What are you digesting? What are you reading? What are you listening to? Are you taking time in silence to receive the wisdom and the insights that is needed? So your intellect needs to be nurtured. And then also your moral. You need to find a mentor, your accountability partner, someone who can give you feedback and real feedback, true feedback in real time. Those things are necessary. So that's chapter, that's my second point. And my final point comes from chapter 13, employment of secret agents. Love this one. You all need secret agents, kind of like a spy movie, 007, if you will. And so on page 143, it goes on, it says, the biggest job of any intelligence unit is organizing and interpreting readily available information. That's the market research that they're doing. That's the market research, the focus groups. And your team needs to be able to sift through that information. Every business, every successful business has a marketing team. They need to have a marketing team. They need someone who is going through and taking and collecting the data and your leads and all of these things and synthesizing it and organizing it in a way that can be understandable. So when they bring it to you, you could understand, okay, this is the value that we need to present. So that also means that your marketing team needs to be asking the right questions. They need to be asking the right questions. They need to be in the right positions, and they need to understand the vision of the company, of your company, of the industry that you're in, so that you can sustain and you can move through and you can thrive. I remember years ago, in terms of for intelligence and organization, many moons ago, there was a huge store. It's called the Bay, and in the Bay, kind of like a Nordstrom, they used to invite me to some of their launching events. Now there's lots of launching events, like Sephora has them, all of these places. But years ago, it wasn't as huge. So like Saks would have them where they would invite certain customers, right? The customers who spend a certain amount of money in their stores. Nordstrom also does this, a certain amount of money in their stores to special launch events. And then they treat them really nice and you get your free gift. But at the same time, people that are showing up to these events, they're still going to buy a product, right? They're getting something free, but they're also buying. And so that is how they were collecting. This is one aspect of how they were collecting their market research, because they were using or inviting some of their top customers to come in to certain events as they invited them, so that they can know, okay, what is moving, what's popular, and they could understand the needs of the people. And that's one of the things. And I remember, at that time I was in my 20s. I was just so excited to be able to go to all of these events, and it was free, and I was getting all these free gifts, even at the bookstore. And the bookstore would, have all of these events, and they had like a live band. They would have all these nice appetizers and some, like food, and then they would actually ask you questions, and they would have a table, and you could do a survey, and we were going through all of that. But because you're as a client of this organization, I would go in. I liked it, but I wasn't thinking, because I was very young and naive at that time, I wasn't thinking they were using it as market research. So there is research that goes in that before they even have an invite list, right? They have to know who their top customers are. They have to know what are they buying. They have to recognize, okay, which area in the store are we going to promote? Or what are we going to highlight? What are we focusing on? We need to know which brand it is. And big brands do this same thing. Every big brand, every big company, they do this, right? They need to know what their customers want. And so the leaders, they have to be able to interpret the data so they can best serve. Now it goes on with the collection of data on page 145. And one of the things that they said, that chapter is a very long one. It talks about much of what you need to know is already known. This is why self-examination is already important, right? Once you understand your competitor and you know yourself, you understand the strengths and weaknesses of your competitor as well as how the market is going, you would already be in the know. So as a leader, regardless of where front, middle, or senior leader, executive leader, you have to be abreast continuously, all the time, of what's going on in the industry, because what you need to know, you already know, but that comes from the data collected. I used to work in the body shop many moons ago, and in the body shop, they always did a customer count. You'll see most stores, especially in the big malls, when someone walks in, there's like a ding. Now they don't have a ding as a sign little thing. It goes straight to their computer, and they'll tell you, okay, there was 2,000 people that came into the store. So they know, okay, 2,000 people came into the store, and then maybe out of that 2,000 people, let's say 40% of that 2,000 people bought products. And then it's broken down even further. Okay, 40% bought products, but what products did they buy? Maybe out of that 40%, 80% out of that 40% bought lotion, for example, right? Like skin lotion. And the other 10% bought shampoos, and then the remainder 10% bought up like little knickknacks, the lip gloss, or like whatever sale items that they have. Now it's broken down. So they know on Mondays, on average, we get 2,000 people. And out of that 2,000 people, on average, we have 40% sale. And out of this, and they break it down. So then they know how to properly staff that store. Right? It's broken down in a science, how you properly man that store. And then they take it even further to know, okay, this is our most popular item. So then when they're creating their ads, when their marketing team and their social media team, they're creating ads and products, they know already, what are we going to promote? What is our most popular item? What are we going to highlight or showcase, right? This is all of the research that is continuously happening, all of the data collected to best serve the customers. And as a leader, you have to be able to know how to interpret that data so that you can get the results that you need to get. So that is essentially like how you employ secret agents. And so there's more to it. And this book goes into there. But I will end with this. It says, there's 2 points. It says that before asking questions, you must learn everything you can about the area you want to study. You need to gathering info is an ongoing dynamic feedback process. And I mentioned this in when I was at the body shop, right? Every day that store opens, they are collecting data and they're synthesizing it and they're dissecting it and their intelligence is bringing it. Now, on top of all of that, their frontline leaders, the managers, they are also collecting information and they're saying, okay, this is what the staff is like. This is what's going on. This is the type of clients that are coming into our store. Perhaps they're at a certain age, right? So the frontline managers are still collecting data. They don't have to dissect it the way a middle manager or the executive team will go through in detail, but they have to be able to collect it. And I end with this when it says that you must know your opponent and understand his or her strength and weakness. It comes back to understanding your competitors. It comes back to understanding your industry. You must understand everything you can about current and future markets for your product, service, and idea. Knowledge and understanding of then they talk about the 5 spies, but you must know it. This is part of employing secret agents. It's not so secret anymore because we know everything has like tracking. And as businesses, we have tracking. In the computer, there's tracking. So all of these pieces come together holistically. So my top 3 is 1, the use of energy, 2, knowing and understanding your terrain, and 3, employing secret agents. Those 3 top things are an excellent start for you to be able to be effective in your not only leadership journey, but in your business. It will take you through. It can give you the success, the ROIs, and the ways to thrive through this book. Have an incredible day. Thank you for staying online with me. I know it was a little bit of a long one, but there was so much value in this book, and there's even so much more value to unpack. And I just only touched the surface. Have an incredible day. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.